Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, OP discovers his girlfriend of 5 years has been leading a double life in Baltimore, cheating on him. After confronting her at her workplace, he exposes her lies to her other boyfriend and colleagues, leading to her embarrassment and job loss. He ends their relationship, leaving her homeless. Despite feeling cheating, he wishes her well, hoping she learns from her actions. Now let's get into the story. I, 27 male, met my girlfriend, 28 female, through a dating app about 5 years ago. I had just gotten out of a long relationship with my high school girlfriend who I had been with for about 8 years. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time. I wanted to enjoy my youth and stay single for a while. I had a few flings before I met my girlfriend. When I met her, I thought that's all it was going to be too. But I quickly found myself wanting more with her. There was something that I just thought was really cool about her, and I wanted to spend time with her. After seeing her off and on for hookups for about a month, I asked her on an official date. She agreed to go with me, and from there our relationship flourished. We had both been in similar situations leading up to our date, and not long after we both agreed that we would only be seeing each other. I had one other woman on my roster that I was sleeping with at the time, so I contacted her and explained everything what she understood. I assumed that my girlfriend did the same thing. My girlfriend had to travel between Philadelphia and Baltimore regularly for her work. There were times when she would have to spend a week in Baltimore, and I wouldn't see her at all. It was completely ordinary for her to have to pick up and go there on a moment's notice as well. I knew that she had 2 apartments because of that. She spent so much time between both cities that she lived between them essentially. On average, probably she maybe spent about 60% of a month in Philadelphia with me. I got used to it over time. We would text often when she was away, and we would video chat when she was available. Never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that she had a completely different life in Baltimore. From the way she made it sound when she told me about it, she went there just to work. She didn't make it seem like she had any friends there or anything really tying her to the city. Last year, she told me that she was going to be in the city around Valentine's Day. We had always made a point to spend holidays together, so I was disappointed. Though, we ended up celebrating Valentine's Day early the week before she left. I thought that it would be nice to surprise her anyway. I figured it would be a cute gesture just to show her that I loved her and wanted to take part in her life. I ended up finding her address in Baltimore through her Amazon address profile, and I made my way over. I had a giant teddy bear, chocolates, and some champagne to share with her when I arrived. I pulled into the parking lot of her apartment and I walked up to the entrance. I was lucky enough to spot her on her balcony before I even went in. I didn't want to be spotted by her because I wanted everything to be a surprise, so I ducked next to a large pickup truck. Just a moment later, I saw a man walk out onto the balcony with her. I was shocked to see that. He hung her from the back and kissed her neck. It was clear that she was cheating on me, but I didn't know anything about this person or how long it had been going on. I got back in my car and I sat there for a while, feeling sick to my stomach while I tried to figure out what to do. I loved my girlfriend and I saw a future with her that I realized was a complete lie after that. After a while, I noticed both of them leaving the apartment. I composed myself enough to follow them. I didn't know who that guy was, but I needed to find out. They went to a fancy restaurant where they had dinner and some drinks before going back to the apartment. While they were back at her apartment, I decided that I needed to look for the guy online. I searched through her friends list and followers list on her social media, but I didn't see him. However, I found another social media page that belonged to my girlfriend. It was mostly private, but I could still see some things. Through the second page, I found the guy that I saw her with. His profile was very public, and it was clear that they were in a relationship. It also looks like they worked at the same company together. After digging through all of it, I realized that their relationship had been going on for years. It started shortly after our relationship ended. On top of that, it seems like she had an entire other life in Baltimore that I didn't know about. I felt like I had never even known the woman I had been with for 5 years. She had kept half of her life secret from me entirely. Betrayed isn't a strong enough word to explain how I felt when I discovered everything. She had lied to me and led me to believe that our relationship was something more than it was to her. I thought that the guy she was with didn't know about me either. If he had been a secret to me, I didn't see why she wouldn't keep me a secret from him. I needed to expose her. Everybody that she knew in Baltimore needed to know about the entire other life she was living. In the morning, I grabbed the bear and the chocolates that I had bought for her, and I made my way to the office. I was going to play dumb until she had to admit to me that she was dating another man. I walked right up to the receptionist's desk and told her that I was there to see my girlfriend. She was clearly very confused when I told her who it was. The receptionist called for her, but while she was on the phone, I saw her standing next to a cubicle and laughing about something. I told the receptionist that I saw her, and I walked right past the desk. My girlfriend saw me, and the smile fell on her face. I wished her a happy Valentine's Day, and I tried to hand her the bear. Before she could grab it, the man that I saw on the balcony with her stood up for his cubicle and introduced himself. I made sure to introduce myself as her boyfriend. He looked at her, and then back at me before he shook his head and told me that I needed to leave her alone. He spoke for her and said that she didn't want anything to do with me, and that if I didn't leave her alone, they would file a restraining order. I was even more confused than I was the night before. I told him that I didn't know what he was talking about, that I just came to surprise my girlfriend for Valentine's Day, and he must have had me mistaken for someone else. Then he told me that he was her boyfriend and that I was basically stalking her. My girlfriend stopped him before he threatened me again, and then walked out of the office with me. I asked her what was going on, and she told me that she had been seeing the guy there. It was clear from the way he acted that she had told him about me, though she told him that I was some crazy ex who was stalking her. After a few minutes of being outside with her, her other boyfriend walked out and joined her. Before he could say anything else to me, I told him the truth. I explained that she was active with me in Philadelphia and that I didn't know anything about him. He didn't believe me right away, but then my girlfriend told him the truth too. He stormed off into the office and my girlfriend followed after him. When he was inside, he made a huge scene about what he discovered. They were yelling at each other in the office while she tried to calm him down and get him to be quiet. She was clearly humiliated by what happened. Personally, I felt very satisfied with the results. Their boss had to come down into the area and tell them to go home for the day. I was standing by the reception desk and watching them. Then the other guy she had been with told her he wanted her out of the apartment. I couldn't help but laugh. Maybe I was naive for thinking she had been paying for this other apartment herself, but I was wrong. I chimed in and told her that I wanted her out of the apartment in Philadelphia too. She had nowhere else to go, at least, not that we were aware of. I drove back home and told myself I was going to forget all about her. A few days later, when she returned to Philadelphia, she saw that a lot of her things were already packed up and ready for her to take away. She tried pleading with me because she had nowhere else to go, but I wasn't listening to it. On top of that, her boss had let her go for inappropriate behavior in the office. I didn't know if the other guy was also fired because of the fight. I kind of hoped that he wasn't. It seems like he had been misled by her just as I was, and I didn't want him to suffer because of her. My girlfriend moved her things out of my apartment and in her sister's. After everything, she was left without a job or a home. I just hoped that she got whatever she wanted out of the situation and learned from the consequences. Today's second story. In this story, Opie recounts his blissful marriage, describing her virtues and their harmonious life. Despite trust and friendship, his world shatters when he discovers his wife cheating with her best friend's husband. Confrontation ensues, leading to divorce and public humiliation. Both couples separate, scarred by betrayal, leaving the husband to rebuild his life with a broken heart. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I were still very young in love when I discovered she was letting someone else tap her honeypot. My wife and I met in her hometown, and shortly after, I returned from college to settle down there. I loved her from first sight, and after several dates together, we started dating and married after dating for a year and 3 months. Meeting and marrying May was like a dream come true for me. She was the kind of girl I always wanted to settle with. She was hardworking, beautiful, intelligent, and fun to be with. There was never a dull moment with her, and I looked forward to waking up next to her every day. May was also a passionate lover. She loved me with everything in her, and while our marriage lasted, we barely fought or did anything to hurt each other. We lived in peace and harmony and treated each other respectfully. I was instilled. I'm a good man and ensured that I cared for May and provided her needs. May worked as a receptionist at a big fancy female store, and our earnings were enough to keep the house running. We never had any financial issues because we tried our best to live within our means. And throughout the 2 years we were married, we supported each other and pushed ourselves to find better jobs. With May, I felt fulfilled and looked forward to spending the rest of my life with her. She was a child at heart and had her way of adding colors to any place she went to. People loved May, and she was really popular amongst her friends. We lived in a small town, so there was hardly a place May, and I went to that she wasn't recognized, mainly because her father held a leadership position while she was in high school. Aside from being a great wife, May was also a great friend, and she had 2 best friends she often used to hang out with. Most times they would decide to go on a weekend vacation or have their regular girls' night, and I never tried to stop her because I understood that it was normal for her to hang out with her friends even when we were married. I also became friends with her best friends' husbands, so whenever May and her best friends went on vacation, the 3 of us would hang out together and spend time together. We did this for 2 years. May and I were married, and even when we would all hang out as a family unit, I never suspected that May was cheating on me with one of her best friend's husbands. Although I noticed she was close to one of them, I didn't think there was any extra. I thought he was the one she related with the most, and I kept believing this until I discovered a dark truth. One evening, May told me she was stepping out to hang out with the girls as usual, and I watched her as she prepared, wore a new dress she had recently bought, and did her makeup. She was always like that, and I didn't see anything off. I even gave her some cash in case she needed to buy anything for herself and her girlfriends. About an hour after she left, I was searching for my golden watch in our jewelry drawer when I found May's ring. I wasn't comfortable that she left her ring behind, and it was very unlike her to do so. So I tried to call her, and after calling her several times and she didn't pick up her call, I resorted to calling one of her best friends. On the first call, her best friend took the call, and when I asked her if I could speak with my wife, she told me May wasn't with her, and she said they weren't hanging out that night either. While I was trying to wrap my head around the fact that May lied to me and left her wedding ring at home, her best friend asked if her husband was with me. He wasn't, and I was surprised that she asked. She was shocked when I told her I had not seen her husband since the last time we all hung out. She said her husband told her he was going out with me for a drink that night, and it was weird that he wasn't with me. At this point, we realized that something was off, and we concluded that there was a possibility my wife and her husband were together since they coincidentally lied to us on the same night. To find her husband, she tried to check her husband's Snapchat location, but it was turned off, and when I checked May's Snapchat location, it was on, and we both decided to go down there. My heart nearly fell in my stomach when I realized that May's location was a hotel, and after asking a couple of questions, we found the hotel room May lodged in. Meanwhile, we started documenting my process of going to May's hotel room, and when I knocked on the door of the room she lodged in, and she opened it, she was beyond shocked to see me and May. You and her best friend there. She was naked underneath the bathrobe she was wearing, and her best friend's husband was lying in bed, expecting that she would attend to whoever knocked on the door and return to him. Immediately we got into the room. I started yelling at her while recording her, and she was so embarrassed. Her best friend was so upset that she hit her husband and attacked May for being a betrayer and homewrecker. May was so ashamed that she could not look me in the eye. She did not even try to explain. She only stood in one position with tears running down her cheeks. After I had recorded enough, I left with her best friend and warned her not to set her feet at home. She didn't come home that night. She probably slept in the hotel room with her AP. That night, she didn't only lose her marriage, She lost her friend of so many years too. Her best friend and I decided to post the video online without covering their faces to humiliate her more. We combined the video and the Snapchat location and kept posting them online until many people started sharing them. It was so humiliating for her, especially since most people in her hometown knew her, and her best friend had been friends since high school. It was my first time being so heartbroken, and I was not myself for weeks. Days after I caught her with her best friend's husband, she tried to beg me and promised it would never happen again, but everything she said fell on deaf ears. We divorced because I could not stand the shame of being associated with her infidelity. Likewise, her best friend divorced her husband and got custody of their 2 kids. Meanwhile, after the video went viral, my wife could not go out because of the looks she got from people. She couldn't even attend her high school reunion because everyone had seen the video. On my end, I had to move to a different location to start life all over again. Whenever I remember how my wife played on my intelligence and betrayed her friend of more than 15 years, I would be so happy to see her again. It still surprises me. She didn't value our marriage or her relationship with her friend, and anyone who can do such a thing can do even more terrible things. I know I will not get into another relationship anytime soon because my heart still breaks when I remember how much I loved my wife and how she ruined everything we had. Today's third story. In this story, OP married after a year of dating, believing in a perfect future. Despite his busy job, he cherished Bella and made efforts to show his love. One day, he discovered her affair, leading to their divorce. Devastated by the betrayal, he threw her out and struggled to trust again, focusing on work while healing from the emotional trauma. Now let's get into the story. My wife and I were married for only a year and some months before we divorced. Bella and I met at a restaurant where I had gone to have dinner one evening. She was sitting at a table alone while waiting for her +1 who never showed up, and I thought of keeping her company. Though she wasn't in her best mood when we met, we had a nice conversation. After weeks of occasionally talking on Facebook, we had our first date and everything from there was happily ever after. We married after a year of dating, and I earnestly believed Belle would be the last woman I would date. I was tired of going through the cycle of talking with different women who would cheat on me. We were almost like the perfect couple, and there was absolutely nothing wrong in our relationship. We treated each other with love and respected each other. Belle and I were both hardworking, and I loved her because she was career-focused and did everything she could to earn more. Unlike Belle, who was a full-time remote worker, I only stayed home on my day off, and I barely took days off because something always came up at work. My work demanded that I travel from place to work for our clients. Even with my busy schedule, I did my best to spend time with Belle. I had great plans for us, and with her collaboration, I knew we could have a beautiful and memorable future if I continued working so hard. Most of the time, I wasn't so pleased with my busy schedule because I missed spending time with Belle, and I didn't like it when she complained about my absence too much. To make up for always being away, I would buy her beautiful gifts and have flowers sent to her at home. Also, I didn't wait for us to have special occasions before I took her to a fancy dinner or mini vacation. The sweet thing about Belle was she always knew how to reciprocate or make me feel loved too. There was a time when I returned from a week of working in another state, and Belle paid for a massage session and gifted me the latest release of Jordan sneakers. Aside from that gift, she cooked special meals, set up our home table for romantic dinners, and did other things. Because of Belle, I always looked forward to going home. But one day I went home without informing her in advance, and our marriage took a different direction after that day. Usually, each time I returned from a trip out of town, I told Belle in advance so she could prepare for me or cook something. But that day I dropped by her favorite restaurant and grabbed some takeout for us and a bottle of red wine. I wanted to be a pleasant surprise for her, but I ended up being the surprised one. When I got to our house, I pulled over in the driveway as usual and walked into the house with the stuff I got. As soon as I entered, I noticed Belle was half-dressed, flustered, and sweaty. The kind of sweat that showed she was doing very hard labor. She was already acting all edgy, and when I asked her what was wrong, she said she acted that way because she was surprised to see me. and she was sweaty and almost half naked because of the summer sun. That felt very suspicious, but I almost believed her lie because it didn't even cross my mind that she could bring her affair partner to our house. As we were conversing about my trip and how I had to come home earlier than expected, I heard our backyard sensor go off. I wanted to look at the security cameras to see what was happening, but Belle tried to stop me. She said it was probably nothing and I shouldn't worry because the sensor had gone off 3 times already that day. That was odd coming from Belle because in the past, even if I wanted to sit in front of the computer and look at the security cameras all day, Belle never complained or tried to stop me. So she literally ratted herself out when she tried to stop me from looking at the cameras. I actually ignored her and then looked at the security camera and I saw our 2 dogs attacking a man in my backyard. I was shocked to see him, and Belle pretended to be surprised. She said he had broken into our house and she was trying to catch him when I came home, and she didn't want to tell me so I wouldn't yell at her for not locking the doors. As much as that lie sounded believable, my guts told me something was wrong. I told her we should call the police, and as soon as I said that, she kicked against the idea. She said we shouldn't get the police involved, or we would have to pay for our dogs attacking the man in the backyard. I was getting mad at this point, so I called the police and reported that someone was trespassing on our property. Shortly after the police arrived, I called the dogs off him and Belle's AP came out of the place he squeezed himself into. He had sustained injuries and told the police our dogs attacked him. When he said that, I told the police he had trespassed on our property and that's why he got attacked. Belle's AP overheard me and he started shouting that he had come to spend quality time with Belle and that he was with Belle the previous night. It turned out that Belle was having an affair with him, and he met him from the book club she belonged to. When he said that, Bella was horrified. She tried to shut him up in my presence, but the guy kept yelling and said he didn't want to be charged for trespassing when Belle invited him. That wasn't all. His affair with Belle had been going on for a while, and that wasn't his first time sleeping over. After her secret was exposed, Belle was so embarrassed because our nosy neighbors had come out to listen to everything. Words cannot express how I felt when I found that the woman I was planning my forever with was doing another man in my own house. After the police left, I went inside the house and threw out her stuff. Out of anger, I retrieved most of the things I bought for her and set them ablaze. The neighbors were still there, and they watched as I publicly humiliated her. I threw out our wedding portraits and other things that reminded me of our union. She was even shameless to keep begging me to let her explain. She said she only invited him over so they could read a book together, and nothing was happening between her and her AP. I knew they were all lies and didn't listen to her. By the time I was done dumping her stuff outside, she had to call her younger sister to come and pick her. I also left the house that day to clear my head. I went to my best friend's house, and after I had put myself together, I contacted a divorce lawyer to start preparing our divorce papers. In my life, I had never experienced that level of betrayal. She shattered me completely and destroyed the possibility of me ever loving or trusting a woman again. For nights, the memories haunted me, and the memories took their mental toll on me. Even after we divorced, I was still a shadow of myself, and it took me a long time to heal and forget about her. Even though 2 years have passed, I still feel that the next woman I might end up with will cheat on me again. Because of this, I keep shutting out or hurting every woman that comes my way. Anyway, I know it will take time for me to heal, and until that happens, I will focus more on working and earning more for the comfort of my future.